microphone.
Mike Massey is logging in right now also.
Perfect.
Okay, here comes Mike Massey. Oh, this might be Mike Henry. I don't know which is which. Oh, that's Mike Henry.
Mike, good.
Okay, so now there's 7.
All right.
And I will, let me just change Mike Henry's. Okay, you are good to go. I'll be on the lookout for Mike Massey.
Great.
Get started.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Commission of the City of Danbury, September 8th, 2020, 7:30 p.m. Let the record show we will begin at 7:37 with a roll call. Mr. Almeida, absent. Ms. Fay,
Here.
absent.
I'm here, Teddy.
Ms. Fay is here, gotcha.
I'm here, sir.
Mr. Hawley, absent. Ms. Hylinski,
Present.
here. Mr. Jowdy,
Here.
here. Mr. Kelly, absent. Mr. Mazzi,
Here.
Mr. Mazzi is here. Mr. Malillo,
Here.
Mr. Henry
Here.
is here. Mr. Marchand is absent. Mr. Nejam,
Here.
and I am Chairman Haddad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9. So I'm going to seat Mr. Henry in for the entire evening for Hawley. And I'm going to see Mr. Nejam in for the entire evening for Mr. Kelly. The next regular meeting is scheduled for September 22nd, 2020. For the record, this is a Zoom meeting. It'll operate pretty much like our regular commission meetings, sometimes a little bit slower as we wait for people to get recognized. We see people clicking electronically a hand raise or signal in the camera a hand raise, wait to be recognized. We're going to go through the petition. We're going to have those speaking in favor, those in opposition. Everybody got a chance to speak. It's also being broadcast on YouTube. All of the instructions, all of the access, everything everybody needed to know has been posted, as well as the agenda and the links on the agenda on all the boards and commissions, websites, homepages, and the city's website.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, did you get 8? You have 8 members?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 members.
Okay, making sure.
Let me see. The only one that the 2 alternates have been seated for regulars, with the exception of Almeida. All right,
Yep.
so I seated. I got Hawley's spot seated. Kelly's seated. Everybody got a copy of the August 25th minutes. Commission members, what's your pleasure? Any comments, motions?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
I second it.
The minutes by Ms. Fay, second by Ms. Hylinski. Any comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? For the record, I did not see any opposition, so the minutes were accepted unanimously. First public hearing this evening is a petition of Sugar Hollow Land Development LLC to amend section 6A2B and 6A5 of the zoning regulations, in parentheses, add sale, rental, and repair of automobiles and trucks to the IL40 zone as a special exception use. This is the July submission. Let me read the legal notice. The legal notice: an application to be heard by the Zoning Commission at the public hearing in a web-based meeting hosted on Zoom on September 8th, 2020, 7:30 p.m. The agenda to be posted will include instructions to access the Zoom meeting and application materials. Pursuant to Executive Order Number 7I, Section 19.c, notice is hereby given that the following petition will be heard. Public hearing. Petition of Sugar Hollow Land Development LLC to amend section 6A2B and 6A5 of the zoning regulations, in parentheses, add sale, rental, and repair of automobiles and trucks to the IL-40 zone as a special exception use, July submission. Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman, sent to the town clerk on August 25th, 2020. Commission members, in your petition, you got the packet of all of the information, the amendment petition, staff report, Westcog response. Let me read the Planning Commission recommendation, August 20th, 2020, to Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman, Danbury Zoning Commission, from Arnold Finaldi, Chairman, Danbury Planning Commission. In reference to 8.3a, referral petition for Sugar Hollow Land Development LLC to amend sections 6A2B and 6A5 of the zoning regulations, in parentheses, add sale, rental, and repair of automobiles and trucks to the IL-40 zone as a special exception use, July submission. At the web-based Zoom special meeting held on August 19th, 2020, the City of Danbury Planning Commission voted to give the above referenced petition a negative recommendation for the following reasons. This proposed amendment is not consistent with the Plan of Conservation Development, POCD. It is not compatible with other uses permitted in the light industrial zone, and it does not meet the purpose and intent of the IL-40 zone. The motion to give this a negative recommendation was made by Mr. Uris. It was seconded by Mr. Chiochio and passed unanimously by roll call vote, with ayes for Mr. Chiochio, Mrs. Hofstetter, Mr. Salvain, Mr. Uris, and Chairman Finaldi. Let me also do another short one while I have the mic here. This is our from Westcog to Theodore Haddad, Chairman, from Kristen Floberg, Planner, Connecticut statutory referral to Westcog from Danbury, attached zoning amendment, August 11th, 2020. Thank you for submitting the attached referral to Westcog. The opinion of Westcog staff is that the proposal is of local interest and with minimal intermunicipal impact. Therefore, it is not being forwarded to adjacent municipalities, and the regional staff is making no comment. Let me now go to Ms. Calitro regarding the staff report. I believe she has a comment on it first.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just wanted to note for the record, actually a couple things now. On my staff report dated August 13th, in the reline about what this is application is about, there was a typo. It says currently add sale, rental, and or repair of automobiles and trucks to section 6A2B and add section 6A5G. And actually this application does not include the repair of automobiles. So that was my mistake in my typo. I'll let Attorney Marcus answer this question when he speaks, but because I think he's presenting for Attorney Khan tonight. But it was also published that way, although it's kind of a moot point because that's not what the petition includes. So I'm not sure it's a real defect in the application, but maybe he can just address that. He's shaking his head no. I wouldn't think he would think that either. But just this second application, the July application, did not include the repair part, which I talk about in my memo. I just didn't include it. I didn't take it out of the ray line. So do you want me to read my staff report, or do you want someone else to do that?
Well, you have the July 9th as an attachment, so you'll refer to it, but you'll just read into the August 13th?
Yes.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Okay, this is to the City of Danbury Planning Commission and the City of Danbury Zoning Commission from Sharon B. Calitro, ASCP Planning Director, dated August 13th, 2020, regarding IL-40 zoning amendment, Sugar Hollow Land Development LLC. Add sale or rental, as I just corrected, of automobiles and trucks to the to section 6A2B and add section 6A5G. We're in receipt of a petition from Attorney Robin Kahn on behalf of Sugar Hollow Land Development LLC to amend section 6A2B of and add section 6A5G to the zoning regulations to allow the sale or rental of automobiles and trucks to the IL-40 zoning district as a special exception use. The reason given by the petitioner for the amendment is as follows. The facilities at which automobiles and trucks are sold or rented are generally located in proximity to each other to accommodate marketing conditions. There are a limited number of sites in the IL-40 zone that are proximate to existing facilities in adjacent commercial zones. The proposed special exception use is compatible with the permitted and special exception uses in adjacent commercial zones, and at the same time is compatible with permitted and special exception uses in the IL-40 zone. The proposed amendment creates flexibility to allow compatible uses in limited areas where changing the zoning designation of a site would not be appropriate. Comments. This petition is a second submission by the petitioner. The previous petition was withdrawn. For sake of brevity, staff will not repeat its prior comments relative to the purpose of the IL-40 zone, the number and kind of uses allowed in the IL-40 zone, the petitioner's interest in terms of this petition, along with the city's adjacent airport property, or the state's licensing structure. Those comments which apply in the case of this petition as well can be found in the staff report dated July 9th, 2020, attached here too. This petition does not include any reference to automobile repair as was included in the previous petition, as that use is already permitted in the IL-40 zoning district. For the record, staff notes that the sale or rental of new or used cars and trucks, notably more of retail or commercial activity, is not permitted in the industrial zone. The proposed amendments. The petition seeks to add special exception use number 11, sale or rental of automobiles and trucks, to section 6A2B, with a reference to new specific use regulations in 6A5G, and renumber the remaining uses. The proposed use regulations address many of the comments raised in the previously aforementioned staff report and range from clarity on location and measurement from existing new car dealers, minimum acreage, access from an arterial or collector street, the requirement for municipal utilities to serve the use, licensure, and other approvals and compliance with applicable requirements. The proposed specific use regulations appear appropriate considering the proposed use. From a land use perspective, the commission must consider whether it's appropriate to add the selling and rental of automobiles and trucks, which activities constitute a retail commercial use, to an industrial zone, albeit in limited locations that meet the specific use regulation, the proposed specific use regulations. Plan of Conservation and Development, POCD. The goal of the Land Development Plan section of the POCD is to ensure that development patterns accommodate growth without diminishing the quality of life of the city. As noted, improvements in land development planning requires considerations of revisions in land use regulations to address changing development practices, POCD page 13. While there are uses allowed in the IL-40 zone that are not of an industrial nature, as noted above, the commission should consider whether it's appropriate to add the proposed use to the industrial zone. If the amendment is approved, it could result in the retail commercial use of land that is shown on the land development plan map of the POCD as appropriate for mixed light industry and office and transportation. This category includes airport and related facilities, offices, conference centers, light manufacturing, research and development, printing and engraving, wholesale distribution and warehouses, expressways, railroad freight yards, and bus terminals, POCD page 8. While the petition would not result in the loss of industrial zone land, use of the land in the industrial district could be altered should the amendment be approved. The commission could reasonably find this inconsistent with the Economic Development Plan section policy and recommendation to maintain adequate land for industrial uses, page 28. Conclusion: to amend the regulations, the commission must find that the addition of the use is 1, consistent with the POCD, 2, meets the purpose and intent of the district to which it is proposed to be allowed and is compatible with other IL-40 district uses, and 3, will not negatively impact the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. And attached to this report is my previous report, as I noted, dated 7/09/2020.
Thank you.
I also, Mr. Chairman, have 2 letters, so when I have to read them into the record at the appropriate time.
I'm going to ask you, did you want to do that now, or did you want to wait for Attorney Marcus? Where did you want to insert the letters?
Neil's okay, I'll read them in now, and then I'll let him, he's shaking his head yes. Okay.
Now then. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, this is a letter from the Danbury Municipal Airport to the City of Danbury Zoning Commission. Dear Chairman and members, I submit to you the following opinion for the request from Sugar Hollow Land Development LLC. The airport would ask that you grant this petition. It is my belief that the petitioners are not asking for anything out of the ordinary or inconsistent with the development in this area, but not for the airport protruding into Sugar Hollow Road, the petitioner's property would be directly adjacent to Weeks Automotive. As such, this would certainly be compatible use and grounds for an amendment. It is the city of Danbury's land which is causing the break in consistency in land use. Since the Danbury Airport can only exist in the IL-40 zone, this piece of property is very unique and is basically surrounded by the airport. Due to the uniqueness, I believe flexibility should be considered and petitioner's request granted. Also, I would like to note that this piece of property has been a problem for the airport for over a generation. Aside from the visual blight, debris oftentimes blows from the dirt pile onto the taxiways, runways, and aircraft. The airport would gladly welcome a change. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Michael Safranek, Airport Administrator. And the second letter from the City of Danbury, Office of Economic Development and Business Advocacy to the Danbury Zoning Commission. Dear Chairman and Commission members, I write to you today to ask that you grant the petition before you presented by Sugar Hollow Land Development LLC. The petitioners have requested a special exception at their property on Sugar Hollow Road for the sale and rental of automobiles and trucks. This petition, as submitted, includes significant restrictions in its application. These restrictions will certainly curtail the abuse of this exception, as the available opportunity simply does not, to my knowledge, currently exist anywhere else in the IL-40. This location on the corner of Sleepy Hollow Road and Myrybrook Road will certainly and undeniably be improved by the inclusion of a premium new auto dealership. It would offer residents and visitors to the area a bright, attractive welcome to an important retail economic corridor in our city. The construction of the proposed facility would be consistent with the uses that are currently operating on neighboring parcels, offering a continuity to our development. I'm keenly aware we need to protect our IL-40 zone properties, and we should do our best and carefully analyze modifications to it. In this case, I believe this petition presents a careful and clear exception that maintains the integrity of our IL-40 zone while providing consistent and appropriate development. Thank you for your consideration and for your service. Sincerely, Roger Colonzo. Director. Thank you.
I don't, forgive me for my ignorance in this, but I got a couple questions. And I don't have, because I don't have the letters in front of me and I don't see the letterhead. Danbury Municipal Airport, is that the city of Danbury, or is that a private company that leases from the city of Danbury? Is this a city of Danbury agency? What exactly is the Danbury Municipal Airport? And
Well, it's the letters from Michael Safranek. He's the airport administrator for the city of Danbury.
Danbury.
So it's on the Danbury Municipal Airport letterhead.
Danbury Municipal Airport letterhead.
Yeah.
Roger Palanzo is the city of Danbury Economic Development.
Right. He's a director of the Office of Economic Development and Business Advocacy. So that's also on his letterhead, City of Danbury letterhead.
Thank you very much. Are you all set, Ms. Calitro?
I am, yes.
No, thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Attorney Mark?
Mr. Chairman, Neil Marcus on behalf of the petitioner with a slightly hoarse voice. Excuse me.
Good news.
See if that helps. Much better. I'm humbled to be here tonight to discuss this amendment on this historic, which refers to a very historic site in the city of Danbury. As Mike Safranek notes in his letter, when this site was operated by Danbury Topsoil by Carl Sayers for years, it engendered probably more litigation from land use than any other site in the city of Danbury that I'm familiar with. It was clearly an eyesore. It was not exactly the entranceway to the city of Danbury that you want to see coming from Super 7 on the south. So it's important, but the real historic nature of this site is, this may come as a surprise to some of you, but I actually grew up on Sugar Hollow Road. I used to ride my bike to this very site that we're talking about because it was the site of Ed Henry's gas station. And we could buy sodas and other things from his machine. It wasn't historic, it was a automobile use historically. But the whole nature of Sugar Hollow Road and Myrie Brook Road is unique. And I'm going to start with the changing nature of that use. If you start at the end of Sugar Hollow Road where it intersects with Park Avenue, right now there's an empty Pier 1 building. For years, that was Danbury Centerless Grinding. That typified the industrial uses of Danbury. Nothing could be more typical than that. Going down towards Myrie Brook Road, we of course had the Marcus Dairy, which was clearly a truck terminal, a packaging plant, a distribution facility. It was industrial. Beyond that, you got to the Castro Convertible manufacturing plant. Now, most recently, it was Sports Authority, and it still is Bed Bath. But that was an industrial site. And beyond that, the next site would be where Domain helicopters were manufactured on the airport. And then you continue down to where the Wibblings owned a number of buildings that were industrial. That's now Weeks Automotive. And then you get to the airport, and then you get to Danbury Topsoil. A number of years ago, when I petitioned the city of Danbury to change the Sports Authority building to, first, the Sports Authority building from aisle 40 to CG20, that became the first incursion of CG20 zone. I later went back to get the Danbury Centerless Grinding zone changed. And at that point, Dennis Elpern said, Neil, why don't you just change Sugar Hollow Road to commercial? Because it's no longer an industrial road. And I said that I would be happy to do that. What do you want to do about the airport? And he said, well, at the moment, he said, you should stop there. So we changed the zone all the way to the airport runway. We didn't go beyond the runway because it was Danbury Topsoil, and there was no interest in changing it at the time. The issue of the airport is an interesting issue. Even though it's zoned IL 40, the airport itself is not an industrial use. The airport is a transportation hub. The airport is no more industrial than the train station is in the middle of Danbury. The train station is a transportation hub. The difference is, instead of having runways, it has railroad tracks. Instead of having airplanes, it has train cars. But to suggest that that zone, the airport somehow influences the zoning patterns of the area today is a mistake. But if you then go down Myrie Brook Road, some of you may have actually seen an article in last week's paper with a big picture of a groundbreaking for a motorsport use where Cooper Mulch and Moore used to be on Myrie Brook Road. If you go down Myrie Brook Road, you pass Weeks Automotive. That's their repair shop. It used to be a Highstead. It used to be the racing facility for Duncan Dayton. Continuing past that, recently, SCG, Jim Glickenhaus's high-end car manufacturing, it's really an assembly plant, is in the old Macton building. High-end automobiles. Across the street, of course, you have SST, high-end automotive tuning, repair, and by virtue of a variance, used in new car sales as an incidence, as a ancillary to the repair business. Keep that in mind for a second. The ZBA granted that as an accessory use. Interspersed all along Myrie Brook Road are some of the finest car collections in the country. Unbeknownst to people, that a lot of the industrial buildings, some of them owned by the Wibblings, some of them behind SST, store some of the best collector cars and performance cars in the country. Myrie Brook Road is predominantly an automotive use. It's not, that's what it is. It's an automotive use. and it is all IL-40. But why is it an automotive use? Storage is allowed, number one. Number two, you're allowed to repair cars and trucks, do full body shops in the IL-40 zone. That's the predominant use of the IL-40 zone. Now, in the staff report, with all due respect, at the bottom of page 1, Sharon says that the staff notes that the sale or rental of new or used cars and trucks, notably more of a retail or commercial activity, is not permitted in the industrial zone. Well, here's where I do differ from Sharon's opinion. And maybe it's because I've spent too much of my life at car dealerships because I love cars. But anyway, if you've been in a car dealership, you will know that the retail sale of either new or used cars is accessory to any of these dealerships. You go up to Ingersoll up on Federal Road and go look at the building, and you'll see a small area of showroom and a huge shop behind there. Well, that's true of every car dealership. The sale of used cars is not the volume at the dealership. 80% of the traffic of a car dealership is for its garage. It's repairs and maintenance. And you ask any car dealer how they make money to stay alive, it's repair and maintenance. And that's been allowed in the IL-40 zone forever. So what we're talking about in this amendment here is essentially to allow us to put a dealership in where, again, the sale of cars will be incidental to what a dealership really does, and that is to maintain and repair automobiles. So I have to differ with the opinion of the staff on that issue. What we're asking is not something of a real retail nature. Now, I'll ask you to compare. Raymore and Flanagan is a large furniture store. I mean, that's as large as any auto dealership or larger. But when you go into Raymore and Flanagan, all they do is sell and maybe store some furniture on the site. They don't repair furniture. You don't bring your furniture in there to have any work done on it. Car dealerships are different. The bulk of the car dealership is not the showroom. So what I'm suggesting is that this use is not only compatible, but I actually think that the Planning Commission, in making its recommendation, didn't give any thought to these issues, because I'm not sure anybody really went in to a car dealership and looked around and said, well, is this really a retail commercial use for CG20, or is this really a use more applicable to the IL-40? Now, our IL-40 zone, I pulled out the book here, and it's noted in the staff report, has uses that really are not traditionally industrial. So for example, you can have banks and financial institutions. Well, again, a bank or a financial institution is a CG use. And we've always allowed it in the IL-40 zone because it's compatible with industrial uses. People who work in factories, et cetera, bank. And it's the same thing with business and professional offices. I mean, that's not manufacturing. That's not industrial. That's really CG. But we do it because it's compatible with the zone. To suggest that an automobile dealership is not compatible with the zone really is not consistent. And I think if you look at all of the uses that you can do in the IL-40 zone, including all the automobile uses, you'll come to the conclusion that we've come to, that the proposed use on this site is compatible. Now, as was pointed out again in Mike Safranek's letter of support, as mentioned earlier, the historical use of this property is basically a sand and gravel operation. It's still a sand and gravel operation today. And quite honestly, it's a lousy entrance point to the city of Danbury. If you drive into Danbury, you see a sand and gravel operation cleaned up a lot. Thank you to Chris, who did a great job cleaning it up, our applicant. But it's still a sand and gravel operation. If you drive further down the road, you see Danbury Porsche Weeks, Danbury Porsche Audi and Volkswagen. And you say, wow, this is a relatively high-class area. They got a Porsche dealer. Well, what we'd like to do is to put a Jaguar and a Rover dealer in there. So when you come into Danbury, you'll see Jaguars and Rovers instead of piles of topsoil. So when you're focusing on why we're asking for the amendment, you've got to also focus on the site that we have in mind to apply this. Because quite honestly, this amendment is restricted. It's not going to allow car dealerships all over the IL-40 zone. As you saw in the language of the amendment itself, the use has to be within 1,000 feet of another dealership. And it has to be frontage on a collector road. And it's, so all of a sudden we've really limited. 1 acre in size may not be so limiting, but the vehicular access has to come from a collector or an arterial street. It has to be municipal water and sewer. It has to be licensed, obviously, by the state of Connecticut. And we've really restricted it. We're not opening up the IL-40 zone in mass. But what we're doing is something that I didn't do years ago when Dennis Elpern said we need to change Sugar Hollow Road to commercial. And we stopped at the airport. And as a result of that, this site is now somewhat condemned to uses that are not happening in the city of Danbury. We are just not a heavy industry like we used to be. Danbury cellulose grindings never coming back. Those types of uses are gone. But what is being done on Sugar Hollow Road is high-end automotive, whether it's repairs, whether it's assembly of cars, whether it's storage of cars. And in one small site, we actually allow the sale of new and used cars. But that's what this neighborhood is. That this is the consistency with the neighborhood. So we've restricted it, but it's a very focused amendment. And quite honestly, I'd like to go back and end up where I started, which is to take a look at this corner of Sugar Hollow Road and Myrie Brook Road and tell me whether you envision it being a sand and gravel operation for the next 5 years, or whether you'd envision it being a high-end automotive use, which, by the way, is everything in the neighborhood, starting with Josh Weeks, who did a terrific job. I mean, the buildings that he built were certainly an improvement over the old industrial buildings that were on the site. That's a use that is something, and I think that's, of course, why the economic development arm of the city favors this, because quite honestly, it's going to put this property on the tax rolls in a much more productive way than it is now. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but as I say, a lot of my differences with the staff report, the analysis is fine. However, I think that the staff report really doesn't understand what a dealership is. And quite honestly, that was brought home to me years ago by my friend Jerry Walton. Some of you may know him. He lives in Danbury. He has a car dealership, a BMW dealership in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I buy my cars from him because he's an old friend. And one day, as he was picking up my car in my office on Deer Hill Avenue to service it, I said, Jerry, if this is a pain in the neck for you to do this, I drive by Richfield BMW every day. He said, Neil, bite your tongue. What do you think we make our living at? Selling cars? He said, it's the repair. That's the business. And he brought that home to me years ago. And in fact, once he said that, I looked around the dealerships that I do go into, and he's quite right. If you look at the construction going up on Federal Road today at Danbury Dodge, the building that Claris is putting up, or if you look at the Claris building they put up for BMW down in Richfield, the building is all the shop. The showroom They're very nice, but they're small because that's really the accessory. So having said that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I really would like you to consider that the car dealership is compatible with the IL-40 zone. And in a lot of the uses that are currently listed in the IL-40 zone are just never going to be, they don't exist in our economy. They're not going to be here again. We could take, right now we have 27 allowed uses and 17 special exception uses, and we can get rid of half of them because they're just never going to be here. What is here, though, quite honestly, in that neighborhood is what we're asking for. So that's what we're requesting. And again, with respect to the prior application that Sharon alluded to, we submitted an application, and she's absolutely correct. It had repair of automobiles and trucks, which were already in the zone. It was redundant. There were a few other technical issues that she recommended that we did correct and we agreed with. But at the end of the day, I do think that this is an amendment that will be beneficial to the IL-40 zone, and particularly to this site that's which is the focus point of the application to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Marcus. Commission members, are there any questions of Attorney Marcus at this time? I see Mr. Malillo.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Marcus, I have a quick question for you.
Yes,
To be
sir.
honest with you, upon first review, I didn't catch that 1,000-foot requirement you put in there. I did catch it before tonight when I was looking over it again, and that interested me because it seemed to me as though that also helps to serve as a buffer, as a lot of the IL-40 zones are adjacent to commercial zones where sales is used. And at the same time, it would also help protect the traditional IL-40 uses more in the interior, in the heart of the IL-40 zone. Was that also part of the intent of putting that requirement in the regs?
Hey, Bob, I'm worried. I'm too obvious. You picked it up on me. I used to be a little more deceptive. Yes. The answer to your question, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malillo. Thank you, Attorney Marcus. Commission members, any other questions of Attorney Marcus at this time? Not seeing any. I will now ask if there's anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate a few minutes of your time and the commission's times. Mark Boughton, 1 Kennedy Flats, Unit 1417, Danbury, Connecticut, 06810. I come here tonight in support of this petition for some of the reasons that Neil articulated, but not all of them, because I usually don't agree with Neil on pretty much anything. So in this case, though, I do agree on some of the common sense approach that we have in terms of this particular area, and understanding that we can't zone or spot zone for specific area. You still have to consider the context of the application. Why is the application being brought forward? We have a corner of the city at the corner of that airport that for 20 years, 19 years since I've been mayor, has sat with a dilapidated house on the top of a pile of rocks and rubble and backfill. Has been problematic unsightly. We've had legal battle after legal battle with the previous owner of this. And at the same time, we've allowed a series of auto dealerships and auto-related industries to sprout up around the airport as sort of a new 21st century economy that we're all trying to foster and to push forward. So I think this is a natural evolution in being able to do that. It fits within the zone, in the area. It makes all the sense in the world. We get rid of a problematic piece of property that we haven't been able to collect a dime, literally a dime on it, because of the back taxes that the previous owner wasn't paying, and they since have been all caught up, thankfully, but it's just been a headache. At the same time, we get to create new jobs. At the same time, we get to create great rateables in the sense of what our taxes would be there, we'd be able to collect. And at the same time, we'd be able to recognize that in this COVID-19 and post-COVID economy, we're going to have to think differently. You know, we are in the process of updating our plan of conservation development for a reason. And that reason is that this new economy isn't going to require corporate buildings. It's not going to, most people, or many people, or up to 30% of the people are going to continue working from home once we work our way through this, whenever that is. So the vision of what was in the previous plan of conservation development has changed. And now we have an opportunity to develop a piece of property and others that are similar to it. There are only, I bet you there's only a handful in the entire city that would meet these requirements. A new industry that has developed within Danbury. And that industry will put people to work. And with an unemployment rate running around 12 or 13%, I need to put people to work. The city needs to give opportunities for people to go to work. And that means that our commissions, and I love the planning commission, they're great people. I don't argue or dispute where they're coming from. I think our staff gave sort of a neutral opinion about this application. But the reality is that we have to be visionary. We've got to look forward now. And this is a decision I think that you all can make that'll be visionary, because we'll be able to put people to work regardless of what particular dealership ends up going there. I'd also say to you that, I don't know if Neil mentioned it, but there's a car manufacturing plant that's back there as well that is coming online shortly. And they'll need an outlet to sell their $400,000 cars. Now, just think if they had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 on site, what the ratables would be on that, because of course that's personal property and we're going to tax them. So from a tax standpoint, it makes sense. From a jobs and economic development growth standpoint, it makes sense. From a land use, you're concerned, and you're concerned with the economy as well. It makes all the sense in the world. It finishes off a corner piece of property. It'll make it look better. I think it's something that all of us can be supportive, at least in my administration. That's why you have the letters from our airport administrator, Mike Safranek, as well as Roger Palanzo, who works on the economic development piece for the city. So I just came to speak in support of this. I think it's a great project. I think we got to figure out a way to make it happen. And I think this new economy is going to require us for many years to figure out how to make stuff happen. And if that means we got to amend, adjust our regulations, then so be it. But if we're going to keep people working, we've got to figure out ways to do this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commission members, are there any questions of Mayor Boughton at this time?
Teddy, I'd like to ask
James,
Neil a question.
Mr. Nee James of Attorney Marcus, go ahead, please.
Neil, I mean, we had a developer come in and buy this property that has this use of topsoil and breaking rock, whatever. Is this grandfathered in? What is the actual reason why that operation can still happen there?
Well, Tom, originally that is a grandfathered use of the site, but in reality, that type of use is allowed in the IL40 zone. You can store. I'm trying to think here. I'm going back. Well, you can store and sell building products, and of course, there's a question as to whether the gravel and this rock is a building product alone, but it's allowed. And you can have the I'm trying to find exactly what they say we can do here, but that use by the Sayers is historically a pre-existing non-conforming use, and it's something that you can operate there until the next use comes along and discontinues it. So, as I say, it is an old use of the property. It's been there literally almost as far back as I can remember.
So by doing this amendment, then that obviously would cease. But if we don't give this amendment, it might be the only feasible way the developer can get a return on his investment there and continue that operation. Is that true?
That's true. That's true, and especially in the economy that we're in, as the mayor referred to, that would make a nice site for a hotel theoretically, right? Coming into Danbury, a hotel. But at the moment, travel industry is seriously in trouble. we're not going to see new hotels in the state of Connecticut for many years to come. So there are other uses that could come onto the site, but they're not in this economy. That's the problem. So I have to agree with you that if we want to see an effective reuse of the property, again, I'll cite to what Mark Boughton just said, this is the type of use that is existing in our economy and in this neighborhood. So yeah, sand and gravel could continue there for quite a while because we're not building banks and we're not building office buildings. They're just, I mean, there's so much excess office space in the economy that it'll be years. So I have to agree with you that your analysis that absent this change in zone, it's likely to stay the way it is for a long time. And that's just about the only use that can be made of it. That's pretty much true. That's the correct analysis.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Calitro.
for the record, just to clear up this grandfather use, this isn't my comments. This is just to clear up this one question. So that use is not grandfathered in. In fact, there was lawsuits with the previous owner relative to the continuing to do what's going on in the property. However, since the new owner took title to it, there's been some discussions between the zoning enforcement officer and the property owner to allow them to kind of clean up that site, which is what they're doing.
Right.
But it's not going to go on forever. It's not legally grandfathered in, for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Calitro. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, did you have your hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to relay, Mr. Chairman, with your blessing, just relay a sort of funny story about this piece of property. You know, as you know, I've been blessed to be mayor of the city for 19 years. And the only time I've ever had anybody come in that wants to develop this property was an auto dealership. This is the second one that's looked at it. The one previous to this was a Saturn dealership. Remember when they were making Saturn back in the mid 2000s, and they were just about ready to pull the trigger. And then I had to explain to them that they were buying property that didn't really belong to the previous owner. In other words, they thought they were buying one piece of property, and they were, but then they thought they owned another piece and that was not included. That was another thing. And I had to look at the maps and say, no. This was executives from GM that had flown out here to look at it. Not even understanding what the hurdle would be trying to get through the zoning commission to get potential dealership on that property, because it just fit in with the other dealerships that are out there. So I guess what I'm saying to you is, after 20 years, I've had exactly 2 people approach the city in any way, shape, or form saying, I want to develop that property. And they've both been dealerships. So it'll be another 20 years before you get anything out of it. With that, I'm signing off. Love you guys. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Good night. Commission members, any other questions? Any other questions of Attorney Marcus, Ms. Calitro at this moment?
I know you, just for the record, you ought to just ask if anybody's here wishing to speak against, because you didn't ask the question.
Actually, point of order, Ms. Calitro, for the record, you actually should ask if there's anybody else wishing to speak in favor. Because you did that once, the mayor stepped up, so you do need to allow other people to speak in favor.
I know, I haven't gotten there yet. I just want to see if there's any other questions of Attorney Marcus. I'm slowing it down. I'm waiting for C hands. Anyone else to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Ms. Calitro, I don't see any hands raised and I haven't heard any. Are you clear on your end?
I don't see anything either, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commission members, any additional questions to the staff or Attorney Marcus? I don't
No,
see.
Teddy.
I'm sorry?
No.
No. Okay. I guess at this point in time, commission members, is there a motion to close or to continue, or what's your pleasure, Mr. Malone?
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Malillo to close this public hearing, second by Ms. Fay. Was that you?
Yes, it was. I'm on Main Street. It's very busy.
Good, good.
Hey, I'm glad Main Street's busy. It's about time.
It's true. You're right. You're right.
Good. A motion made by Ms. Malillo to close the public hearing, second by Ms. Fay. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? For the record, I did not hear any opposition and I did not see any hands raised, so that was a unanimous to close this public hearing. So let me mark this down,
Chairman,
closed.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Malillo,
I would like to make a motion to move this petition to item number 1 under old business for discussion and possible action.
I second.
it's a motion made by Mr. Malillo to move the petition of Sugar Hollow Land Development to number 1 under
Old business.
business discussion and possible action, Sugar Hollow Land. It was a motion made by Mr. Malillo, second by Ms. Hylinski. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I did not hear or see any opposition, so that's unanimously old business for discussion, possible action, Sugar Hollow Land Development. Okay, under the continuations of public hearings, we have none. Under old business this evening, we have old business for discussion of possible action. We do have one petition. It's a petition of Sugar Hollow Land Development, LLC, to amend section 6A, 2B, and 6A5 of the zoning regulations in parentheses at sale of automobiles and trucks to the IL40 zone of special exception use. This public hearing was opened on September 8th, 2020, and it was closed on September 8th, 2020.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Malillo,
I would like to make a motion to approve this petition for the following reasons. Reason number 1, it is consistent with the plan of conservation development. Reason number 2, it meets the purpose and intent of the district to which it is proposed to be allowed and is compatible with the other IL40 zoning district uses as they are evolving to reflect the needs of the current economic conditions and will be considered with adjacent and will be consistent rather with adjacent uses in bordering commercial zones which allow the sales and rentals of automobiles. Reason number 3, it will not negatively impact the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. And for the secretary, I can email her the my language when we're done to make it easier for her.
can I ask you to repeat your second reason, please?
Sure. It is it meets the purpose and intent of the district to which it is proposed to be allowed and is compatible with the other IL40 zoning district uses as they are evolving to reflect the needs of the current economic conditions and will be consistent with adjacent uses in bordering commercial zones which allow the sales and rentals of automobiles.
Thank you. Commission members, there's a motion made by Mr. Malillo with reasons as stated to approve this petition this evening of Sugar Hollow Land Development. Is there a second?
There's a second. I'd second, Teddy.
Second by Mr. Nejam. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make one comment for discussion.
Mr. Malillo, please do.
I would like to add for legislative intent that one of the helpful aspects in my mind in supporting this petition is that 1,000-foot requirement regarding the location of other automobile dealerships. And I would encourage future zoning commissions to remind or to consider that carefully if they're ever asked to remove, as it is my feeling that that will help to protect the integrity of the IL40 zoning district.
Well, that's in the,
It is in the petition. It is in the amendment. I just want to note it for the record that as the motion maker for legislative intent, I think it's important. I would encourage them not to, in the future, if they're ever asked to reconsider that they take a close look and carefully consider that.
follow. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Motion made by Ms. Malillo with the reasons as stated, seconded by Mr. Nejam. Any other further discussion? Not hearing any, we're going to do a roll call A yes is yes. A no is no. Mr. Malillo,
Yes.
Mr. Nejam,
Yes.
Ms. Fay,
Yes.
Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry, unmute.
Oh, I think oh, yeah, Mike Henry got to unmute.
Be
There
a
you go.
yes. That's a yes.
Wanted to get your voice on the record, Mr.
Yeah, okay.
Henry. Where was I? Ms. Hylinski,
Yes.
Mr. Jowdy,
Yes.
Mr. Massey
Mazzy.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzy, yes.
and yourself.
Vote yes, that makes it 8-0. Everybody here got called, right?
Yes.
And are you a yes too?
I'm sorry?
You're a yes too, right?
Yes, that makes it 8-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, thank you, Attorney
Thank you,
Mark.
Teddy.
New business is a petition of Fairway Asset Management 2 LLC, Reserve Road.
Yes, so this is the petition. It's showing up tonight. I talked about it at the last minute that it was submitted the day right after we posted the agenda. So we took the official date of receipt as being the last meeting, which was the 25th, but we didn't amend the agenda because it's a whole process now electronically with everything. So it's showing up for the first time, but I did talk to you about it.
Yes.
Because the official date of receipt for purposes of scheduling the hearing and for the statutes was at the last meeting, staff took it upon ourselves to send it out to be referred, but we would like a motion from you guys just to kind of condone everything. But again, statutorily speaking, we need to send it out within X amount of days from when it's officially received.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Fairway Asset Management 2 LLC, Reserve Road C16046 for a change of zone from PND to IL40. Public hearing is scheduled for October 13, 2020. This date is subject to change depending on circumstances related to COVID-19. I'd like to have a motion to
Mr. Chairman,
Commission for their recommendation, notify all surrounding communities that need to be notified according to state statutes, publish it in the town clerk's office and all of the necessary required publications. Statutes.
Mr. Chairman, you took my thunder away from me. I was gonna.
Mr. Millow, I got one more for you here. And set the public hearing date as it is scheduled on this evening's agenda, which is subject to change depending on circumstances related to COVID-19. Mr. Malillo,
Okay, so to make it easy, I'll just say so moved rather than saying all that again.
that was my gift to you. Motion made by Mr. Malillo. Is there a second?
Second.
Fay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, good job, Mr. Malillo.
I'm so used to having to say that I forgot. I didn't expect you to have it written down. Good job, Mr. Chairman.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
I went back to Granicus, copied down what you said last time, word for word, and said, I'm giving you a Christmas gift.
Funny. That's very funny.
I even typed it.
You have way too much time on your hands.
Oh, true. There's no correspondence. Are there any other matters? Any other matters outside the agenda? Any other matters?
Well, we do have that other one that we already noticed.
Only petition of Encompass Health to amend sections 2B and 4H 2B 3 III 111 of the zoning regulations, in parentheses, add physical medical facility inpatient to the PND zone. Public hearing scheduled for October 13, 2020. This date is subject to change depending on circumstances related to COVID. So commission members, we have, whoa, let's figure this out here. We have 2 on October 13th, which means we have nothing for September 2nd.
Right. That's correct.
So September 22nd, we are off.
Yes, correct, Joanne? Yes, yes.
Okay, so October 13th, we have 2 public hearings. Anything else, commission members? Motion to adjourn, anybody?
Sure.
So moved.
Motion.
Massey, motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Jody. Any discussion? All those in favor,
No
say
discussion.
let's that we are going to adjourn at 8:36 PM. I thank you, everyone.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Hank, enjoy.